Hello, today I'm speaking with Roxie Bennett, who I first saw on television about 4 days ago and thought, I've got to meet this woman. She is a woman who is a coach, a life changer, reading on her website, and somebody who loves to help people to transform so that they can achieve their goals and their dreams in life. Reading a little about Roxie, I think that she's been through a few transformations herself and overcome quite a few problems along the way. And I'm really looking forward to hearing her story. Roxie, welcome and thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, it's such a pleasure, Jenny. I'm so pleased, and thank you so much for inviting me. This is wonderful.
Well, let's get in and dig into your story. I'm dying to find out all about you. I have an idea of the sort of work you do now, but I'd love to know how you got to the point where you are actually working as a coach. What sort of work did you do before?
So I'm one of these people who has quite a bag of tricks. I own my own PR and marketing agency called Planet Roxie, and so it's a boutique agency, and I just work with half a dozen or so select clients. So I have that business. I also work part-time on radio, so I'm a radio presenter. Radio was really my background for many, many years. And then I sort of moved out of that and started my own business. But so I do a show 3 afternoons a week on a radio station in Geelong called Bay 93.9. You can listen actually online, so you can search for us. But we're based in Geelong.
Yes.
And so I do 3 afternoons a week, just a couple of hours each of those days, Monday, Wednesday and Friday. And it's a talk-based interview kind of radio show with music and a bit of fun. So that's sort of what I do. And I guess that I was really looking, I had a bit of an epiphany actually, which is often how these things happen. Well, yeah, I was kind of, I guess, and I think people will resonate with this. You know, I'm running my little agency and I'm doing quite well. But I was noticing that a lot of other agencies were starting to open, and a lot of the younger women who I sort of had been mentoring were getting the confidence to start their own businesses and doing really well, which is awesome. But I was sort of feeling like, oh gosh, you know, I need to start to, you know, there's a lot of competition now in the marketplace, and not that I'm afraid of competition at all. I think that that's one of the best things that can happen to you. But I was just sort of feeling, look, you know, maybe I need to think about something else that I might want to do. And funnily enough, I was watching the telly this one day, and a story came on about a couple who were moving to, it was in Europe, and they were moving to an island because they wanted to set up a life coaching sort of getaway kind of thing. And I suddenly sat there and went, life coaching? Oh my God. Life coaching, that's what I want to do. And it was literally like that. And so then I started doing the coaching course, and I'm currently working to achieve my master coach accreditation. And so that's kind of how it started. And I think another thing, and I think your audience will appreciate this as well, like I'm in my mid-50s, and I was thinking to myself that you know, if I want to down the track continue to work, so I can't ever imagine not working, but I'm not sure that I want to continue doing PR and marketing. If I want to continue to work, what's something that I could do where it almost wouldn't matter where I lived, but I could control and draw on my wisdom and my skills. And so that it just fitted in perfectly. So I guess that I see it as something that I am building now. I'm building my practice now, but down the track, it'll be something that I'll solely do that. That will be my sole business. So I hope that explained it.
That explains it beautifully. So tell us what you're actually offering to people now. So many of the people who are watching or listening to this would still be employed, or hopefully not unemployed at the moment because of what's been going on, but they'd be looking around. I think that sort of 50 plus stage right through to, you know, traditional retirement age is something when people start to say, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? So
Absolutely,
love to hear
absolutely.
how you actually decided to package what you're doing.
Yeah, so I sort of do sort of coaching series, and they can range from look, yeah, some people just want to have a catch up with somebody and have a chat, and maybe that's a really good thing to do. And so you can just do one, but I'm not sure that you're going to get a great deal from that. I mean, you will, because it's sometimes really good just to unload with somebody who hasn't got any kind of vested interest in you or your life necessarily. And you're really, like, as a coach, I am just purely there for my client. You know, I'm not judging anything else about them. I don't have any vested interest. So really all I want is for them to be their best. But generally my coaching goes in series, like maybe 6 sessions or 12 sessions. 12's probably the standard. And the idea is that you know, if you're looking for coaching, you've kind of maybe come to an impasse in your life, or you're a bit confused about where you're heading, or you have some issues you want to resolve. But often it's around goal setting. So thinking, all right, look, this is where I'm at the moment. I'm not sure I want to actually be here. Where do I want to be? Okay, let's set some goals and see how we can get you to there. And then we go on that journey of achieving those goals. And goals are really, this is going to sound a bit trite maybe, but goals are pretty simple. You make a goal, you figure out you're here, the goal's there, you figure out how to get there, you do those things and you get there. And it's almost that simple, but obviously there's a bit going on along the way. So I guess what I do is help people get to their goal. But you're absolutely right, Jenni, in saying that you know, that sort of mid-50s age, it can get really, like, we can feel a bit left behind, and pretty much how I felt too. Like, there are all these younger, wonderful people sort of nipping at my heels, which is great, but where does that leave an older woman like me offering, like, why would somebody choose me above them, like in my business? You know, and just sort of you're at this bit of an impasse. So it's about a bit of reinvention as well,
Mm.
but also realizing, and this is the thing that is so important, 50 and mid-50s isn't what it used to be. It literally is the middle of your life, which means you've got a whole other full life, almost as much as, because we'll all live till we're 100 now, you've got as much ahead of you as you have behind you. So what are you going to do with those years? And how are you going to make it wonderful for yourself, but also wonderful for your community and the people around you? So that's
And how
kind
you
of
can
it.
share your experience and what you've learned along the way, which is
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
strong. I was very interested to hear you speak about a book that you've just published, and that's I suppose, a natural sort of evolution from coaching. I also saw that on the website. Can you tell people about the book?
Okay, well, here I just happen to have one.
Oh yes.
There it is there. My beautiful book. So this came about because I went through my own sort of transformation. The last few years have been, look, and don't get me wrong, I don't think I have suffered or any worse than anybody else, but it's just about me sharing my story.
Yeah.
So quite a few years ago, my partner and I, he was a millionaire. I hadn't earned the money, so I didn't necessarily feel like a millionaire, but he was a millionaire. We were living in a mansion. We literally were living in a mansion just around the corner from where I live now, actually. And life was seeming to be quite good. He got really unwell and has since been battling sort of with his health. As a part of that, a business that he had just started and pretty much invested everything into failed
Oh dear.
because he wasn't able to do it. And from that, we then lost everything. So everything just, you know, and I think at that stage, we were really, and I guess I was really sort of wondering how we were going to make the rent. You know, it was that we were in that sort of situation.
You had
I
two
kept running.
choices. You could roll over and accept it, or you could reinvent, which is obviously what you chose to do.
Jenni, absolutely. So I sort of, I think it took a couple of years for me to really get my head around this, but there was this one moment, we were a couple of years after we'd lost everything, and I just looked at myself and I just thought, I feel like this fat old moth and I just want to feel like a beautiful butterfly. That is literally the thought. It was my epiphany. And I realized that I was supporting our family. And so if anything happened to me, then we were seriously in trouble, like seriously.
Yeah.
How would we survive? So then I had to kind of make a decision about myself. And I thought, right, I've got to get well. I can't allow myself to be, to get sick. And I realized my weight wasn't healthy. I probably looked at myself honestly for the first time. I realized that I was actually obese. I'd always thought, I'm a bit overweight, but no, I was obese. I also realized, like, I'd had an injured knee. I was on antidepressants, like a double dose of antidepressants. I was popping pain medication like it was going out of fashion, trying to get as strong a medication as I could, in that cycle. I was on reflux medication as well. And I just thought, what the hell?
Yeah.
This has got to change. So I kind of drew a line in the sand. And part of my coaching course that I was doing, it included a wellness component. So I did a wellness coaching certificate. And it was really interesting because a lot of the things that I did in that certificate really resonated with what I thought would really work for me to get myself well and healthy again.
Yeah.
The big one was I knew I had to reduce my waist circumference. That's the biggest indicator we have of ill health into the future. And if you want to know whether you're in the healthy range, look at your height, halve it, and if your waist circumference is bigger than that, then you know you've got to reduce it. It's just a simple sort of formula to think of. So I thought, right, this is it. Drew the line in the sand and I said, I'm going to give myself 12 weeks. I'm going to lose 20 kilos.
Wow.
And yeah, audacious, no doubt about it. But I kind of figured if I said, oh, I'm going to lose 5 kilos, it just wasn't enough. I needed it to be big enough that I had to really do it. I couldn't just be flippant about it. I'd always managed to lose 5 kilos in every diet I'd ever done and then managed to put back on maybe 10. So I just didn't want to do that again. Thought I've got to break the back of this. So I thought 20 kilos will get me into a healthy range. I won't be obese anymore. I won't be overweight and I won't be obese. So that kind of is what I sort of thought. So I set that goal, started thinking I've got to get my head right. So it's about mind. It's about movement. I would not recommend anyone do boot camps or you do what you want to do, but it's not for me. So I started walking every morning with my dogs. I started yoga, never done yoga before in my life. Only learned after I turned 50, started doing yoga. This big old moth, fat old moth was in there doing yoga with all these other people. And now, like, I can do yoga with the best of them. So started yoga and I just thought, right, I've got to work on what goes in here and I've got to work on my gut health. And I'm crazy for gut health. That's really big thing. If we can get that right, almost everything else follows. And then the other thing I thought, Jenni, I need some joy in my life. Where's my joy? Where am I getting my joy from? And I realized that I didn't have a great deal of joy in my life. So I combined all of those things and I started to lose weight really rapidly. I was kind of using Dr. Michael Mosley, as a bit of a guide. He designed the 5-2 and the Fast 800. So I sort of modified his thing to suit me. And then at the end of it, I got to the end of the 12 weeks, I'd lost the 20 kilos.
Gosh, that's a great effort.
It was amazing. And the transformation was extraordinary. The difference between me then and me at after I'd lost 20 kilos, funnily enough, but the weight loss was just part of it. I was so happy. I was just walking around with a smile on my face. My eyes were clear. I'd stopped all of the pain medications. I had weaned myself off most of the antidepressants right down, because like the doctor sort of said, look, just take it slowly. to the point where I was able to stop the antidepressants. I assumed I'd be on these drugs for the rest of my life, I've got to tell you. And then the reflux medication gone, no longer needed. It was like, and I felt 20 years younger. And I looked amazing. And I'm not joking, Jenny, I was walking down the street and this woman, because I live in Geelong and because I've been on the radio, people kind of know who I am, you know. And this woman came over to me and I thought, oh, this is somebody I know, not that I recognised her. And she said to me, you don't know who I am. And I went, oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. She said, look, and I don't know who you are, but I've got to tell you, you look amazing.
Wonderful.
What? And I think it was just that I was just glowing, you know. I was so healthy and well and felt so good, and I'd really put the joy back into my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I realised that to be the best version of ourselves for the people who need us most, like my partner and my kids, I have to be the best version of myself for me. And I think that was kind of it. Look, I went on to lose another 5 kilos. I just kept losing weight, and then I was a bit concerned. So I worked out how I could stabilise. But then it stopped all up. I had lost 25 kilos. And I'm just sort of staying around that. And that's really great. And if I feel it's creeping up a little bit, COVID hasn't been friendly to any of us. I just modify my lifestyle a little bit, and it fixes itself up again.
Yeah.
So people really wanted to know more about it, people who knew me. And then through a series of just serendipitous events, I started writing a book, and a local publisher here is working with me to publish it. And that was what I was on the Today Show talking about.
Yeah. No, I love the way you know, it's called the butterfly plan. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I loved it. I have little granddaughters, and we often read The Very Hungry Caterpillar. And the end of it, and it turned into a beautiful butterfly. And I heard those words as you held the book up on TV. That's quite wonderful, because you've shared, you've brought together your coaching, your desire to help people live their best life, and your own experience, and shared that with the world. So congratulations on that.
Thank
Would you
you
say
so
that
much.
is the thing you are most proud of?
Oh, I'd absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. When I think probably the part that I think is most important is just being able to be honest about who I am and what I've been, not what I've been through, but what we've dealt with. Because so often, particularly, look, we're the first generation that we've ever experienced living our lives out on social media, and you know, and also we're the first generation, particularly of women, who have had full-time jobs. We run corporations, we run our family, we look after our partners, we do all of it. Now, I'm not suggesting that my mum necessarily had it easy, but she didn't have to do all of that, and then at the same time play it out in a social platform that is, by the sheer nature of it, narcissistic and judgmental. And so, and I don't want to go on social media and say, oh, my life is blah, blah, blah. I don't want to do that either. It's not about that. What it is about is saying, look, we are all human. It was a big thing for me to admit that we'd lost everything. It was hard.
Yes.
And, you know, I'm telling Beck Madden, who interviewed me on the Today Show, actually knows me. And she said to me before we went on air, she said, I didn't know any of this about you. And I said, well, I know. And then I said, I just felt that if I was going to do this, if I was going to put myself out there, I had to put myself out there authentically. I had to be honest about it all. I had to say I was on antidepressants. I had to talk about the fact that I was popping tablets. And, you know, I had to. And so that's the thing I'm most proud of, that I was able to do that. And that's a tough thing to do, you know.
Yeah.
But Jenny, you know, after the interview went to air, I can't tell you how I've just spent the last 48 hours just replying to emails and messages. The amount of women who have experienced pretty much the same thing as me and just feel the same way that I did, and have just shared their stories with me. And like, it's just bloody tough being us. It just is. That doesn't mean we can't be us. We are resilient. We're a bunch of awesome women. And I'm not saying that we're different to the guys. Guys, love you too. Love men that much. I'm onto my fourth husband. But that's actually true. But I think that, we're experiencing this world so differently to how anybody ever has. And I don't know that we're necessarily prepared for it. So for me, this is about helping women navigate this part of their lives.
Yeah, fantastic. Is there anything that you wish you'd known before you started the whole, I mean, you already had your business, but before you started this kind of more public, I suppose, way of sharing yourself and your experience?
Do you know, no, and I'll explain why. I've had, well, just by the sheer nature that I'm onto my fourth husband, I've had a few ups and
That in
downs.
itself is something to be proud of.
I know, I could write a book about that. Oh my gosh.
You're like a failure. I've only had one.
As a friend of mine, she's never married, and she said, you've had enough husbands for both of us. And I said, that's true. I think, I've had ups and downs, great times and not so great times, and all of that. And even with this process, it's almost like things that initially I think, oh, I wish that had been different. But then down the track, I think, now no, I'm glad it was this. It worked out this way because now it's this. I can't, I don't wish for it to be different. And in fact, I am glad we lost everything, because I would not be here sitting talking to you, Jenni, if we hadn't.
That's
because I'd be leading a very different life, and I don't think I would have really gotten to know myself in the way that I did. When you've got money behind you, you don't have to push yourself too hard. I mean, some people do, and some people are quite driven, but not necessarily to find themselves within themselves. But when you get down to the depths, you've really got to figure this stuff out and this stuff out to get to get yourself through. So I'm glad of it all. I'm absolutely glad of it all. I remember when we were in the lawyer's office, and so this is like 5 years ago, or maybe about 5 years ago, and they said, like, it's all gone. And my partner was going to be made bankrupt, and it was just, that was it. It's all gone. And
terrifying.
Yeah, but terrifying. My partner was very unwell, and it just was pretty horrible. And our lawyers were just beautiful. They were wonderful. They'd gone on this journey with us, and they were just really feeling like it was just really sad. And I said, you know what? We're going to look back on this one day and say it was the best thing that ever happened to us. I'm not joking. They all nearly fell off their chairs. And they just could not believe that I could say such a thing. And I said, I'm serious, we will. And I tell you what, Jenni, right here and now, I am glad it happened to us, because it's got us here. My partner doesn't necessarily agree. He's still not quite there yet, but it's gotten us to here. And I've written a book that I'm so proud of, and I'm going to help and impact the lives of so many people through sharing my story. And wow, what a life.
So many people experience problems with ageism, particularly if they're employed, but a lot of people fear that ageism will also carry over into them starting a business of some sort. It seems to me that your age has been one of your greatest selling points.
Absolutely it has. Yeah, 100%. I wouldn't, if I didn't have this, if I didn't have a few kilometres under my belt, Jenni, I don't think I could have done this.
Yeah.
You just don't have the understanding, and I wouldn't have had the credibility. And that was the problem and actually how this all started, when I knew I had to fix up my life and change my life and lose weight, but fix up all the other parts of my life as well. I went looking for somebody I went looking for a guru. I went looking for somebody who could, guide me. There was no one out there that spoke to me. Yeah. There were lots of gym bunnies. There were lots of young women who had broken nail and had an epiphany. I'm being facetious, but had no real experience in life and said, oh, I lost 5 kilos and look at me and now I'm a wellness guru. I mean, it was just, and there were a lot of men. And there are a lot of men who were telling me how I should be living my life. But there was no one that I looked at and I went, you resonate with me. That's why I had to design it for myself.
Mm.
And I think that that's what this is. And you're right. The fact that I'm in my mid-50s and that I've experienced it, people trust that. Women trust that.
Yeah.
They trust me. I'm just like, I had a woman ring the number, my number, asking about the book, and I answered. I said, "Oh, hi, Roxie," and she said, "Roxie, like the Roxie," and who wrote the book? Yeah. She said, "On this number," and I said, "Yeah, it's my number." And she said, "But don't you have people who do that? Answer your phone?" No, just me.
And
So
doing washing up for you.
And I think that that's the thing. And so we had a great chat and, she's ordered the book and she's like, oh, wow, and I said, look, let me know how you go with it. And she said, you've just inspired me so much. And what was that?
Wonderful.
A 2-minute phone call,
That's wonderful. Roxie, you're speaking about being in your mid-50s. The thing is that this same thing goes through to mid-60s as well and beyond, where people feel the need, almost the societal need, to retire. People often say to me, why haven't you retired? Well, I don't want to. Is that a good enough answer? I'm still doing stuff I like. So it's a real problem, I think, for sort of that age group from 55 on, where you almost have to justify the fact that you perhaps want to do things differently and still have a song that you want to sing, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way of putting it, Jenny. You're absolutely right.
If somebody was to come to you and say, can you just give me some little gems of wisdom as a silver sage about starting a business at an older age, what are some of the things you'd suggest?
I think the first thing, and you've just got to do it. Like it's simply that. We can sit around and talk about stuff till the cows come home, which is a great old saying, actually, isn't it? Young people wouldn't understand what that meant. But we could, just do it. Say, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm drawing my line in the sand. From this moment, I'm going to do it. This is a great idea. The idea that I've got this wonderful gem of an idea. I am going to put my energy into making it happen. Set your goals. Set some goals, and they don't have to be audacious, although I do love an audacious goal. I think that it does inspire you. But they can be simple goals. Set the goals and go about achieving them. And if you do that, you almost can't help but succeed. And another thing I would do is just back yourself. We don't get to be this age and, into our 50s and 60s particularly, we don't get to be this age without learning and having so much that we've experienced. Back yourself, trust your intuition and trust your knowledge, trust yourself. Years ago, being in your mid-60s, you were considered old. You're not now. You're absolutely not. And you're actually not really even considered old now until you're sort of into your 80s and maybe even 90s. But we've got all of this energy and all of this time. We're going to be kept well and healthy. Just back yourself and know that you've got a minimum of 20 years to create a business and become a massive success in whatever you do. So go for it. I don't know. That's
fantastic advice, Roxie. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for taking part in our interview series. It was a delight to meet you, and I'm so glad that I did take the step of making contact with you, because I think it was a message that so many people will resonate with. And I commend you and thank you for your complete, the fact that you were able to swallow your pride and be completely honest with people, to be an open book about everything, because it's that transparency and seeing your resilience that is the most inspiring part of the whole story.
Oh, Jenny, that's so lovely. It has been such a joy chatting to you, and I just think it's wonderful what you're doing, sharing wisdom and celebrating people our age is just, how fabulous is that, you know? And I thank you so much. I'm so blessed to have been included. Thank
People
you.
have fabulous stories. It's wonderful to hear the stories. Thank you so much. I'll just turn off the recording now.